Record. There we go. Oops. Sorted. Righto, team. So tonight's call, as you might have seen in the Facebook group, is all about tracking and eating out, because the focus for February is obviously so far been keeping consistent with tracking. January can be a wee wobble sometimes for people before they kind of get back in the swing of things. So February, the idea behind that is just to keep us going with momentum and just keep up good habits. And that is why I got us all to do from last week. And then I'm just keeping that going this week and maybe next week even as well, is just keeping sharing your screenshots in the Facebook group, just for the sake of accountability. It's not about looking at each other's numbers and stuff like that. It's just more about keeping yourself accountable, making sure, although like I can obviously go onto MyFitnessPal and see what people are up to. I think, oh, there we go, we've got Angela. Hi, Angela. So yeah, we've just got making sure, that you're sharing it. You've got it in your mind. Oh God, I'm going to need to go on and share this tonight. And so it just helps you make sure you get it done. So yeah, just for the sake of that, it seems to be quite effective. I know that like people that I've spoke to have actually quite liked doing that. They have noticed that they've been more accountable, which is great. Which is the whole point of it. So I'm glad it's been quite helpful. Like I said, it's not like a singling out thing or shaming people or anything. Like I do love that you've been really honest. If you've went over calories and stuff like that, that's absolutely fine. If you've been out for dinner and stuff, that's why I wanted to kind of talk about that a bit tonight as well. So yeah, I appreciate the honesty. And like I said, it's not been like singling anyone out or like, oh God, you've like went over your calories or anything like that. It's just showing that everybody's in the same boat. Everybody has got things going on in their lives. Everybody's got meals out, they've got lunches, they've got dinners and all the rest of it. So it's fine if you've got days that you're going over, but when you actually look at it over the course of a week or whatever, it's actually fine. You know, if you're consistently logging, you'll say, well, do you know what, actually for the past 3 weeks I've been really good for the most part. There might have been 1 or 2 days out of 20 that I wasn't spot on or whatever, or that I've maybe went out and I haven't been too sure what I've been having. So it is good for you to have that opportunity to see that everyone's going through the same thing. Nobody's on it perfect all the time. Everybody's got normal lives and normal eating patterns, which is what it's all about. So first of all, let's kick off with a share. I know we normally do a win and a lesson, but I just thought we'd merge the two tonight. So if you jump in the wee chat box and fire some sentences at me here. So share 3 things you've gained awareness from tracking and sharing last week. So from having to go into the Facebook group, having to make sure that you've been tracking everything, having it in your mind that you're going to have to like share it to the group, is there anything that it's made you aware of when it comes to tracking and sharing and what we've been doing so far? So if you wouldn't mind just sharing some stuff with me there, I can see the wee chat box up at the top. So if you pop some of your feedback in there, that'd be great. Thanks. So it could be any 3 things. And you're always really late. That's fine. I've only put the 8 p.m. thing up as a prompt, to be honest, because I have it scheduled. I wouldn't remember to do that every single day. And I just think it would throw people off if I was putting it at different times. And I thought 8 p.m. for most people, they might have a wee snack or something after dinner, whatever, but you've probably had the majority of your meals by that point. So don't worry about being late. Like I'll look at it the next morning anyway, because I'm not on my phone normally at that time of night to see it. So don't worry about that, Angela. Just fire it up there. I'll see it whenever. That's absolutely cool. No pressure for that. Lisa's saying higher calorie snacks, calories could be saved by changing. So Lisa, do you mean like noticing that some of your snacks are higher in calories, so you could do with swapping them out or something, or the snack?
Yeah. Yeah, well, a bit of both actually. I must admit, at one point at the weekend when I saw my snack percentage, I was like, oh my goodness gracious me, that's ridiculous. But I've also noticed that there's more calories, so I was more conscious of that today. Mm-hmm. And actually at the weekend I'd gone back and I'd made like my frozen grapes and the jelly powder. And today in my, because I always need a wee snack in the afternoon, a wee sweet snack. Mm-hmm. And I had them instead of when I'd been having like one of these sort of oat bars that's probably about 4 times the amount of calories. I was equally as satisfied with my grapes this afternoon.
Good. And that's important. Like, that's such an important thing. Like, it's not as if you're, oh God, I need to have like dust, you know, I need to have something totally crap just to fill a spot. So that's really good that they did the job and that you were satisfied with them. And it is mad how much, when you actually add up your snacks, you think, but that could actually be an extra, another meal or something like that you could be
Yeah,
having.
totally.
And it's funny when you actually look at it, and there are always alternatives. Some, like I always say, it is good to be able to have a wee bar of chocolate and stuff. Like, you shouldn't deprive yourself of that. But if there are opportunities where you can make swaps, then why not? Especially like you said, it kind of ticked the box for you. So that's a good idea, having the wee frozen grapes as well. That sounds really nice.
Yeah, but they've
Yeah,
got
it's
to
a
be
good idea.
coated in the jelly powder.
And the jelly powder.
Yeah, that makes them extra sweet. So that's just a wee bit extra.
That's a good one. Share that in the group. That's a good one. And what are we hitting with here? So good to get back into the routine. Sometimes if you choose a preloaded meal, you don't always get the nutrition values. Should probably add my own meals more often. Yeah, that's so true. Like, sometimes it is really handy to have stuff that's already logged. So do you mean if you're typing something in and it comes up a suggestion that's already on MyFitnessPal from someone
Yeah, I'm
else?
quite lazy sometimes and not like I don't always put my own meals in because it takes forever. So I just look
Right.
for something that's equivalent and then. But I think I've noticed recently though that you don't always get the nutrition things for it sometimes. So probably should make more of an effort to put my actual meals in it instead.
Is that like the protein breakdown and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think sometimes like I put in for example, like the other day I made a frittata and you put that in. So that's blatantly got loads of eggs in it. But then when you go in and check, you don't always get the same protein allowance that you would have got if you'd put it in as like your own meal, I think sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
I think it's
definitely.
probably just because some people preload it and some put has it, but it's just easier sometimes, I guess, than sitting and writing down a whole recipe if you're
Yeah, but like
all
you
the
said,
time.
you just don't know what that person has actually put in it to get to that calorie.
Yeah.
So it could be like, it could be all sorts in it. It could be way over or way under what you're actually having. So that's true. Like, your protein or something could be way higher or it could be way off, just depending on what that preloaded one has got in it. Which is, I suppose that's the good thing about like ready meals and stuff, that the barcode just scans straight in, and it's pretty handy. Or if you're lifting a recipe from a website, then it can scan straight in, which is good. But like I said, if it's I say it quite often, like for people that are quite big on home cooking or cooking from scratch, if there are things that you make quite often, even just take the time to save the recipes in MyFitnessPal. Even just take like a wee bit of time, write out things that you commonly have, especially for folk that have got kids and that, and I know that they typically will create the same meals, or even using stuff from like Gusto or that scans in, which is quite good. But if there are any recipes that you have as like with your family and stuff quite often, then it is kind of handy to even have them pre-saved and then just log as you go, because you just don't know what folk put in. Like on MyFitnessPal, it can be I could put in something that like Joe Blogs has put in, and it's absolutely not get the same ingredients as what I've got in. But it does make you realise, like you said, when the nutrition breakdown isn't there, you might be kind of robbing yourself a wee bit because you don't know, how accurate it is. But thanks for sharing those there, guys. That's good. And I'm glad that you've all kind of felt some sort of benefit from sharing on the Facebook group. So we're just going to keep that going. But let's talk about tracking
I do
consistently.
feel like I'm at school, I have to admit that.
You what?
I feel like I'm at school having
We
to
what?
like put in my screenshot every night. I'm like, right, okay.
I know. Submit your homework, please.
Submit your homework.
Deadline. Right, guys, let's have a look at tracking consistently then. So it's one of those bloody buzzwords that we see everywhere on social media: being consistent, being consistent, being consistent. But unfortunately, it is a biggie. It really makes a big difference. Being consistent, it's whether you're consistently on it 100%, whether you're consistently half-assing it, it's still being consistent, and it still gives you a jumping off point. So when you are tracking, see, even if it comes, going to track at the weekends, track at the weekends. See, even if you have a weekend that is just wild and it's wine central and it is brunching and it is takeaways, see if you log it, and it just makes you see what you're having. And it's not a shame thing, it's just to give you an awareness. It's just so that you know that if time's going on and you're not seeing changes, and then you go back and you say, well, do you know what, I've been absolutely smashing the weekends. I've been so good Monday to Friday, tracking everything, being diligent, this and that, and then come the weekend, it's tumbleweed. Like, I don't have a clue what I'm at for the weekend. I'm only having a wee takeaway, but actually it's a big takeaway, and it's leftovers, and it's snacks, and it's wine, and it's all the good things. And there's nothing wrong. I'm not saying don't have these things, but if there is something you're not seeing changes, or there's something that's holding you back, this is something that could be a biggie. So please make sure you include the weekends, because it just gives you an idea where you're at and where you could potentially be going wrong and what's holding you back. Because there's nothing more frustrating than feeling like you're spot on all the time, like you're ticking the boxes, you're tracking, you're so good Monday to Friday, you're prepping your meals, or you're planning things out, and you're being consistent, and then come the weekend, it's an absolute riot. And it's not undoing all your hard work, but it could be what's holding you back. So please, 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 please track your weekends, because they do count. Undereating, make sure you're not undereating as well. It's just something I see sometimes when I look back on people's MyFitnessPal. Sometimes we think, oh, I've been under my calorie target, and that's a good thing. I give calorie targets for a reason. I want you to hit that number, preferably not go over it, preferably not be under it. You've got about a 10% leeway, to be honest, to be over and under. I normally have that on your trainer eyes as well, that you can see there's like a 10% variance. Because no one's ever going to be spot on anyway. But if you're purposefully trying to be below your calorie target, it's not going to go well, because I've purposefully not made your target that low, because it's going to be harder to get enough protein. It's going to make your life more difficult with your meal choices, with your nutrition selection, and it's going to probably be too low for you actually to make yourself satiated from your meals. You're probably going to be hungry. If your activity levels are higher and your food intake is too low, you're going to end up really hungry all the time. You're going to end up cranky. You're going to be tired. Your sleep will be affected. You'll have no energy. Your training will be affected, and you'll be more likely to end up overeating because of all these reasons. You'll be hungry. You'll be tired, and you will be, probably exhausted from all your training and stuff. You won't be able to put enough into your sessions, so you'll end up, not self-control, but when it actually comes to making food choices, you'll be so much weaker, and you won't be able to make more beneficial food choices because you're so hungry, and you'll end up just going fuck it and grabbing the biscuits and absolutely scanning the face off them because you are so hungry. So make sure you're not purposefully undereating. I get that sometimes we're busy, sometimes we end up like working through lunch and things like that can happen. Or if you've got like really busy weekends, you might even find that you don't actually sit down to a proper meal until the evening. But just make sure you're not purposefully undereating, because you're already, if your goal is fat loss and I'm giving you a calorie deficit, that deficit is designed to encourage weight loss for you. So if you're going into an even deeper deficit, it's probably not going to work out well for you, because you'll end up, like I said, being too hungry and not having enough energy and things like that. And we don't want that to happen to you. We don't want you to end up malnourished and grumpy and cranky. And I say that lightheartedly, but we don't want it to actually, negatively impact your health. It's all good if you're seeing the scales move a wee bit quicker, but they'll end up just moving the opposite direction because you'll not be doing yourself any favours. So just make sure you're not purposefully going below your target. However, we will come to calorie banking in the next bit, which kind of ties in with that. So we'll have a wee look at that in a second. So keep that in mind about the undereating thing, but just make sure that's not a regular thing that you're doing, is purposefully undereating. The different ways to track, I've covered this before, so I'll not talk about this much. You can see it in one of the other videos, but it's just picking ways that works for you. If you struggle to keep track of everything, if you feel like you're getting to the end of the day and you can't remember what you had for your breakfast, you can't remember what this weighed, how much that was, blah, 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 then you might find it better to track as you go. Just because if you're quite forgetful, then that's fair enough, and it might just be easier for you to scan things and stuff as you go along. You might find that you are Mrs. Consistent and you eat kind of fairly the same things every day. You might have the same breakfast or the same lunches or whatever. If there's a particular meal that you have that's quite similar day to day, then either have it saved in your meals, have it saved throughout the week. So you could even sit on a Sunday night and say, well, I know that I'm going to be having, if it was me, for example, I know that I'm going to have my porridge every single morning, Monday to Friday. So I could just log that for the week. And that means I'm not having to sit, well, for me, it would be 5:30 in the morning trying to log my porridge and all the rest of it, whilst I'm trying to get ready for work. So that might be something that saves time. It might be that you decide, you might plan out what your meals are going to be for the week, what your dinners are going to be, and have those meals. Like for Angela, for talking sake, who, you know, has a love-hate relationship with Facebook when it comes to logging recipes and things, or if you're someone that is quite keen on cooking from scratch and find it a bit overwhelming trying to put all your ingredients into it, you might say, right, this is what I'm cooking on this night. I know there's a lot of stuff going into that, so I'm going to save that recipe, and that means I'm going to log it and it's done, and that's it out the way for during the week. So just track. There's lots of different ways to do it. So just do what works for you. Say whatever's going to save you time, whatever's going to save you any hassle. Make sure, you know, you do what's easiest for you. Be as honest and accurate as you can. That means that if you're first starting out with tracking, that is weighing things and being honest with your weights. It's not a wee scrape a peanut butter and then a wee spoonful when nobody's looking. It's all these wee things that do add up. So make sure you're being as honest as you can and putting everything in, whether it's that wee biscuit whilst you're waiting on the kettle boiling and having an actual biscuit with the tea. That's always a common one, and I say that because that's me. That is one that is easily forgotten about, but that could be 100 calories that you're not accounting for that day, and that's going to take you out of a deficit. Be as accurate as you can. It's never going to be 100% accurate. Never. But we want to be as accurate as we can, and that's where consistency comes into it. Because if you are trying to be as accurate and honest as you can, and you're consistently having all the same things, it might be that if it was me, for example, I might be inaccurately tracking my porridge every morning. So I might be putting it down as, say it was 400 calories, when actually it's 500 calories. But every day I'm putting in the 400 calories and I'm accounting for it. It might be that in a bit of time, I'm like, do you know what, I'm not seeing enough change here. What could it be? And then I'm like, oh, well, do you know what? It's actually my porridge. I'm not tracking that properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start weighing it. I'll make sure that it is 400 calories. And then because I've been able to make a change, and because I can see where I'm making that change, and then I start seeing progress, I know that change is made an effect, okay? And I know that change has been a good change. And that I'm actually going to see progress now. So even if you're not spot on, even if you just keep on tracking, it means that if you're not seeing any differences, or if you're feeling a bit frustrated and you're not seeing any weight loss changes, then there is something you can do. And then that's how you know that maybe something hasn't been accurate, but at least you've been as honest as you can and you've been consistent with it, and those things tie in. And then the last one, no such thing as a disaster. So if you feel like the day has been a write-off, and you know, it might be like a hormonal day, it might be a really frantic day at work, it might have been a social day, whatever it might have been, there's no such thing as a disaster. Just get it logged. Like it doesn't matter. Just log everything you had, because it just lets you see what is in everything. Because it's so easy to have a day like that where we're just, you know, grazing and having nice meals and nice food and drinks and blah blah blah. And it's easy to just bury your head in the sand and say, right, it's fine, I'll start again on Monday. But if you actually look at the day, and then it means that if that's quite a regular thing that happens for you, I'm talking, if it's maybe a one-off, then that's fine, like whatever, forget about it. Maybe even log it, and then you can see what you've had, but it's a one-off, it doesn't matter. But if you're someone who maybe has a very busy social life, you've got a lot of lunches and dinners and things like that, then it might be worth your while actually just logging them and having a look and saying, you know, this is something that is, you know, taking me way out of my calorie deficit week in, week out. What can I actually do here going forward so that I can still enjoy these things and still look forward to them, but manage them a bit better so that they're not holding me back, and so that I'm not seeing progress anymore because I'm smashing it Monday to Friday, all the rest of it. Then I've got these lunches, I'm going to my friends for meals and all these kind of things, and I'm just totally knocking my progress back. So if you were just to say, right, this is what I had, this is what I was drinking, and then you can look at it and say, well, do you know what, next time we have that, I might, you know, only take a bottle of wine that I've picked and drink that I don't know how realistic that is. Because you know what it's like when you're going to pals' houses and people are topping you up. You have no idea how much you're actually drinking. It might be that you say, right, instead, one of my swaps might be that I quite like Kopparberg. So I might take White Claw instead because it's a lot lower in calories. And I can clearly see how much I'm drinking by how many empty cans are sitting about me. So that's a really easy swap that I use because I know that Kopparberg has got a lot more calories in it, whereas White Claw is a lot less calories. It's tasty. I can drink it quite easily, I was going to say. But you know what I mean? Like, it's something that I can still enjoy, and I would still be able to, like, if I was going to my friend's house and just sit and have a wee drink or something, enjoy myself and not feel like I'm missing out. And from that, I could be like easily saving myself a few hundred calories that would otherwise be taking me out of my deficit. Okay, guys, remember, there's no such thing as a disaster. There's always ways to fix things. There's always ways to do things better without you missing out or having to feel guilty or beat yourself up about it as well. So next, look at eating out next. So the big one, always better to overestimate than underestimate your calories. A lot of places that are chains have got calories on their actually, I think, I can't remember what that law, if it was all restaurants now have to share the calories, but I know that chain restaurants tend to, like Nando's and Pizza Hut and all these kind of places. I've actually got the eating out guides, if people remember, they're in there with the recipe guides. The eating out guides are there. There's like, oh God, what was the big one? There was the Wagamama one in there. And I remember I had a client last year who nearly fell off her chair when she found out how much was in a healthy option Wagamama meal that she thought was, ended up it was like 1,200 calories in this one meal alone. And it's a lovely dinner and everything. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But she thought she was going for a healthier option. Ended up it was 4 times the amount of calories that she could have had in a curry or something, like that she would have thought was an unhealthy option. So it just opens your eyes that way. So remember to always overestimate, look ahead where you can. So try and plan ahead if the calorie guides are available. Sometimes they might be on MyFitnessPal. Remember and look for the green tick on MyFitnessPal. It means something's more reliable. So if you are going for that, like, you know, chain restaurants tend to already have stuff like Nando's, as I mentioned. So accept that you might be going over your calories. So if it's going to be a meal that isn't a chain or you can't figure out what your calories are ahead of time, like, that's not always going to be an option anyway. That's just sometimes, excuse me, sorry. But you might just have to be like, you know, I don't have a clue how many calories I'm going to say it's X amount. I'm really going to overestimate it, but I might just accept that I'm going to be over my calories for today, and that's all right. If you have been calorie banking, then that might save your bacon, because it's a good tool to use if you've got a big weekend or a big night coming up, and you still want to see results. You still want to make sure that you see a change in the scales. You still want to see yourself progress in terms of your fat loss goal. So you might want to bank some calories during the week and reserve them for the weekend. It might be saving 100 to 200 calories a day. I wouldn't go any more than that, to be honest, because like I said, we don't want to be under eating. We don't want to be starving ourselves for a big blowout at the weekend. It kind of creates that binge restrict cycle, which we don't want you to be in, where you're squirreling away calories and eating next to nothing during the week just so you can eat everything at the weekend. It's just, it'll make you feel terrible trying to diet that way. So it's just unrealistic long term. Ideally, this is a short term solution to do a wee bit of calorie banking, especially when it gets into summer, when we have weddings coming up, we have barbecues and all those kind of things, and you tend to have something on every other weekend. So calorie banking might be a wee bit helpful for you if you know you've got like a run of events coming up. You say, well, do you know what, I've got like the next 3 weekends are going to be wild. So what I'm going to do is just save a couple hundred calories every day and reserve them for the weekends, because I know it's only a short-term solution, but it's something that's going to help keep me on track during this fat loss phase and help push me on towards my goal and make sure I'm not going to come over my calories. So those are my kind of main points of advice for if you're eating out. It doesn't need to be a write-off. Just try and overestimate. You might, if it's dinner you're going out for, plan your day. You might push back breakfast a little bit. You might have a brunch where you feel like you're kind of eating later on in the day, so that you're not starving coming up to dinner time. And also you're combining your calories, so it might feel like a bigger meal, which might be a bit nicer as well. But yeah, definitely overestimate what you're going to have. And you don't need to just say, don't have a clue, doesn't matter, I'm not going to track it. If you just say, right, let's say 1,000 calories for this evening, and you kind of just need to hope for the best and just make an educated guess, because it's never going to be 100% accurate. You don't have a clue, especially when people are cooking from scratch and things. It's never going to be 100% accurate when you're eating out in restaurants. But if there are guides, if you can look ahead, then that would be ideal. Just to help you plan a wee bit better and take a bit of anxiety away from it, so you can just go and enjoy yourself and know. And then there are times that you might just be over it, and that's that. And if it's what's this? It might just be a special occasion and things like that. I'm not talking about special occasions or anything. I'm just talking about like week to week. If you've got busy weekends and stuff, and you find that overeating at the weekends is holding you back, then these might be some tools that you use to help you out. Alrighty, guys. So we've kind of rattled through those there, but I think we've touched on the main points, especially when coming to tracking consistently. We want to make sure that you're regularly tracking as accurately and honestly as you can, making sure that you're still sharing in the group for the rest of this week and maybe even going into next week, and just to help keep you accountable and keep you tracking so you get back in that good habit again. It's always important to remember you will not be tracking forever. If you're getting frustrated with it, sometimes it's fine. It will come to an end. Like, this is why you want to be as consistent as you can from the start, so that you can stop sooner. So don't get too frustrated by it. It's just a tool to help. It's not the be all and end all, but it can be a very, very good tool when used properly. So you're better to use it well, so that you don't have to use it anymore. And then, yeah, eating out, you want to enjoy yourself, you want to have good food, you want to socialise, you want to, make the most of like going out for a meal and things like that. I totally get it. So just better to err on the side of caution, plan ahead, and maybe bank some calories if it's an option for you. But if you find that during the week you're really struggling by taking those calories away, then plan your day of eating a wee bit differently on the day that you're going out for your meal, and see how that works for you. It might just be a matter of saving some calories. You might skip breakfast and put them towards your evening meal. You might find that a wee bit more beneficial. Alrighty, team. So another wee reminder I've got here that our team workout, the strength day is 26th of this month, so it's a Sunday. It'll be 10 a.m. till 12 p.m. I've made the invitation in the Facebook group, so if you can RSVP, that'd be amazing. If you can't make it, that's totally cool, but if you can, please still let me know, so I have an idea for numbers, because I'm kind of trying to source a company to do some hoodies. I've tried to do that before and it didn't happen, so I'm going to try and make it happen, and hopefully we'll have them in time for the team day. And then I'm also running the Bring a Buddy sessions for February as well, for Galentine's Day, we'll call it, since it's Valentine's Day, but for your gals, for your pals, if you get anyone that wants to join you for a wee session, then they're more than welcome to. If you just let me know when you're booking in, then that'll be class, and you'll get a bonus free session for yourself. Right, stop share, here we go. How are we doing there? Is everybody still with me? I think I'm all talked out now.
Can I just say, I think your thing about tracking, I was all proud of myself because I was doing quite well with my tracking, and then on Saturday we went out and I had no idea whatsoever how to track it, what to do, so I just didn't.
Right.
And so I mean, and that's obviously what you're saying, is at least try and put something through as opposed. Yeah. But it was quite difficult because of what we were eating, of actually just even trying to think, how would I track that?
Yeah. And did you, what was it you were out for? We'd
gone to that sort of Everyman Cinema, so we'd went for food in there first of all.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a pepperoni pizza, but it wasn't like a proper pepperoni pizza, it was more like a flatbread. And Ian had got like a sort of dip and some chicken, and I was nibbling in bits of that, and then obviously we had popcorn and sweeties, and then you just think, well, how do I track all that? I could like the pizza, I could probably have made an effort at the pizza, but then when it starts with the dips and the wee bits here and there, that's when you just think, oh, bollocks.
Yeah. Totally.
Sorry,
It's
Donna.
so hard. It's just you're like, oh, I had 3 jelly babies. What's that? You know what I mean? It's never going to work like that. So that's
No.
when you would just be like on Saturday, if it was Saturday night you went out or whatever, like maybe during the day you'd be like, right, I know I'm going to be over, so I might just rein in my calories during the daytime, do my best, see what's left over for the evening. Like that's when you're just like 1,000 would 1,000 do. Like that's when you've just kind of got to guesstimate and see. Because if it was something like you had a bag of sweets or something, like say it was like a sheer bag of minstrels or something you were taking into the pictures, that's easier to measure than like the picky bits. That's tough. But if I was you, I would have just put in like pepperoni pizza, see what came up in MyFitnessPal, whatever generic kind of thing came up. Aim for like the higher end of calories. You could maybe even say that would be like, I don't know, depending on the size of it, just make an educated guess compared to like what a Domino's might be or something that you kind of roughly know the calorie amount for, and try and match it. And then just tag on a few extra 100 calories or something for all the nibbly bits, because you just don't know how much that's going to be. You just got to round up and see, because it's never going to be 100% accurate. And you would end up demented trying to do that as well. It's just not.
And I don't want to walk into a restaurant with my scales so that I've got to weigh everything before I track it.
Could you imagine?
I know. I mean, digital scales out the handbag.
Was it just cooking oil or olive oil for those fries? Excuse me, could you get the chef? They're like, right, there's the door. That's no way to live. We don't want that at all.
No, absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. Boring. But yeah, it's trying to just round it up, educated guess, and see how you get on. I don't even know if Every Man's Cinema would have a calorie guide or anything online. I don't know. You could look up in advance if you wanted to.
I went to a restaurant once where they said, was that new law? And you would find it on the online menu, but if they had printed menus, we weren't having to do that. I don't know if you look it up online, you might see something.
All right, okay.
Somebody told me that before, because they weren't going through the cost of reprinting all their menus. But if you went online, they were doing it there. But so I don't know if it's worth a look. But
All right, well, that's good to know for the future.
Almost like the highest ready meal for the equivalent when I was away on holiday in America, and that's what I was kind of doing, just typing it in, and it was ready meals that were coming back, and I was just going with the highest one.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
During that time, but it just gave me a wee flavour looking back.
Definitely. No, that's a good idea. Nice one, guys. Right. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you found that quite helpful. This re-recording will obviously be going in the Facebook group as well for the folks that missed it. But thanks very much for joining me. And like I said, I hope you find that quite helpful. The next one obviously won't be for another 2 weeks now. So if you've got anything that you come across that you want some extra help with, or anything you want me to cover on the next call, then fire away in the group, in the Facebook group, and just obviously keep sharing your stuff and any hints and tips that you come across along the way. Sandra, that would be a class one actually, if you could fire that up in the Facebook group about what you did with the calorie guides, that you put it online.
The menus as well, online menus.
Yeah.
If I do see anything like that.
No, amazing. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks very much. Alrighty, team. Well, enjoy the rest of your night. I'll leave you to it. Lisa, it's jammy time. Woohoo!
It is jammy time. In fact, if you ran over, you might have ran over. If you
ran over.
It's into jammy time. I'm off ski now to get my PJs on.
Right, me too. Kettle's going on.
Thank you. See you later.
Guys, take care. Bye.
Bye.